I refuse to acknowledge someone without education as my husband's acquaintance. This isn't a place for people with low education like you, so could you please leave?
I was coldly spoken to and mocked by my friend's wife at his company's inauguration party. Even as my friend hurried to intervene, his wife didn't care and continued to hurl insults.
I don't want my husband associating with uneducated people, and I really think he shouldn't continue this relationship.
Her condescending demeanor reminded me of the bullying I faced during my school days. Growing up neglected by my parents and belittled by my classmates because of my disadvantaged background. I felt a resurgence of those bitter memories at her words. Understood. If you insist to this extent, ma'am, I'll leave. She smirked satisfactorily at my words. However, I have one condition, I continued, which led her to realize her mistake, and eventually caused her to lose the prestigious position she was so proud of. My name is Kenneth Carter. I grew up ignored by my parents as a child. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that I grew up in a very disadvantaged family environment, known as a neglected child. Perhaps because of that environment, my classmates didn't really want to get close to me. Once, on a whim, I asked a classmate why, and he replied that his parents had told him not to play with me because my family environment was bad. Those words were a huge shock to little me. It's not like I chose to be born into this environment. I used to feel envious of everyone around me. And because their parents said things like that, my classmates gradually began to see me as less than them and started harassing me. Because of this, there was a time when I hated going to school, but I never dropped out. All this was thanks to my classmate, David Hartman. He was the only one who didn't mind being with me and was friendly to me, which made me happy. David came from a wealthy family, but it seemed his parents were rarely home due to their busy jobs, so there was no opposition to our friendship.
I failed the private school entrance exam and ended up here.
David not only played with me but also often helped me with my studies, knowing I struggled with them. However, during one of those moments, he let slip it unexpectedly. It was when I let slip my envy towards David, who was already quite accomplished in our grade. When I was surprised by his unexpected story, he gave a wry smile. He had been disappointed about failing the exam, but his parents hadn't scolded him too much, though he had wanted to meet their expectations and had apparently cried about it. Now, he was working hard studying for the private middle school entrance exams to meet his parents' expectations. I knew he went to tutoring every day, but learning about his underlying feelings made me reflect on his kindness and efforts. I couldn't just be envious, I had to work harder too. To me, David was a true friend and a real pillar of support. However, despite his efforts, David failed the middle school entrance exam. I don't know what his parents said to him, but he ended up going to study abroad in Australia, and we were separated right after elementary school graduation. We promised to meet again, and then we parted ways. Since then, after entering middle school, I desperately begged the local friendly store owner to let me help out at his store. It was really lonely being apart from David, but knowing he was working hard far away, I felt I had to do something too. So, I diligently saved up my allowance, and because I didn't want to stay at home anymore, I didn't go to college after graduating from high school and left my parents to work in a live-in job. Years after graduating from high school, having experienced various types of work, I used my gained knowledge to start a company that would take on anything. From cleaning up hoarders' houses to dealing with scenes of solitary deaths, I really did it all. Working tirelessly paid off, and the company grew steadily. While it wasn't a huge corporation, it had become known as a handyman service, even being featured in the media. One day, while I was back in my hometown for work, after finishing a meeting for my next job, I was having lunch at a cafe when someone suddenly spoke to me.
Are you Kenneth?
Yeah, and you are. David. Looking up, there stood David, all grown up. It had been since elementary school graduation since we last met, but I recognized him immediately from his lingering youthful features.
Wow. How many years has it been? Have you been well?
It's been about 14 years since you went to study in Australia. I've been good, and you look great too.
Yeah, that's right. Man, I went abroad for studies. What are you doing now, Kenneth?
Me. I started my own company. So, what have you been up to, David? Our reunion excited both of us. It seemed David had time since he came to have lunch too, and he sat down opposite me. Then we caught up on each other's current situations. David recently got married and is working at his parents' company. Moreover, he's been involved in activities for impoverished children. And he shared the reason behind it. Wait, so I inspired that.
Yay, it's not out of pity or anything. I just realized that not every kid has the life I took for granted.
I get it. But hey, let me support your cause too. I talked about my company and then offered to help with the charity work David was doing. David, you started this because of me, right? Then I want to do something for kids who are in the same situation I was.
Of course. An offer from Kenneth, the famous handyman CEO. There's no way I could refuse. With both of us working on it, it's bound to be a huge success.
David, thank you. Over the next year, David and I put our plans into action. It served as a corporate social responsibility effort, creating and providing places where children who couldn't afford school or tutoring could learn and be taught. Their response from the community was positive, and many appreciated what we did. From there, we expanded the initiative nationwide, creating similar spaces everywhere. I wanted to reduce the number of kids who had backgrounds like mine, so it was natural to take action. Then, a year after we started our project, David told me he was going to take over his parents' company and had been appointed CEO.
Finally. We finally made it.
David, congrats. But you know it's going to be even tougher from here, right?
Yay. Being a CEO comes with a lot of responsibility.
That's right. It's not easy being a CEO.
I'll keep that in mind. But hey, there's going to be a party soon.
A party? Oh, you mean a CEO inauguration party?
Yeah, I'm planning to invite you. So make sure you're free, okay?
Got it.
All right, it's a promise. And I'll introduce you to my wife then.
Understood. I'll make sure to behave. A few weeks later, I was invited to the inauguration party at David's company. There were several people I knew at the venue. I didn't see David right away, so I chatted with some acquaintances for a while until someone suddenly called out from behind me.
Kenneth, you're here.
Oh, David, sorry, I got caught up talking about future plans.
Well, everyone's busy. It can't be helped.
That's true. And who's the lady with you?
Oh, right. This is my wife, Mary.
David introduced me to his wife, Mary. Mary, Sue certainly had the air of a lady, greeted politely, so I greeted back sincerely in return.
I'm his wife, Mary. You're the Kenneth my husband speaks so highly of, aren't you?
Yes, I apologize for the late introduction. My name is Kenneth Carter.
So it's you.
I don't know what David has told Mary about me, but she looked me up and down thoroughly. Despite being deeply disrespectful for a first meeting, I decided to let it slide since she was David's wife.
My husband tells me you only finished high school. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct. It's embarrassing, but I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances and started working right after high school.
Really? It's actually true. I would rather not acknowledge someone without an education as an acquaintance of my husband.
I was taken aback by her sudden rudeness.
Excuse me, Kenneth, but this isn't a place for someone with your educational background. Could you please leave now?
Excuse me.
Hey, Mary. What are you saying to Kenneth?
This was the first time someone had blatantly pointed out my lack of a college degree like this. I was shocked that she would try to kick me out of the party because I wasn't deemed suitable to be associated with David. It wasn't the first time I was mocked for only finishing high school, but this level of rudeness was new to me. David quickly tried to correct his wife, but Mary didn't seem to care. It seems she thinks she's above me.
David, please don't say anything. I heard that Kenneth has been helping disadvantaged children together with my husband.
Yes, I've been doing my best.
But you're just using your friendship to add your name to something for a social statement, aren't you? The things uneducated people think of can be so distasteful.
What?
I would prefer if my husband didn't associate with such worthless people and didn't continue this relationship.
Mary, enough is enough.
Mary judged me solely by my educational background as a worthless person. I had never expected to be spoken to like this upon first meeting my friend's wife. Her words and the way she remained unfazed even when David scolded her brought back painful memories of bullying I endured during my school days. I couldn't bear it any longer, though I felt sorry for David. Understood. If that's how you feel, ma'am, then I will leave.
Kenneth.
Next to a stunned David, Mary smiled smugly at my response.
I'm glad you understand.
However, I have one condition.
Oh, how bold of you to make a condition.
That's right. I will leave the party as you wish. In return, I was planning a substantial investment in your company, but I will cancel that. Mary snorted.
Go ahead, do as you please. Our company will function just fine without your investment.
Are you sure? I was about to invest $10 million in David's business, but as of today, I will stop that investment.
Understood. Wait, $10 million.
Mary's smile froze. Glancing at her, I turned to leave.
What? Mary, enough is enough. Kenneth, please wait.
I was about to go home, but David stopped me, saying there was a speech he had to give as president and asked me to wait. Initially, I refused and tried to leave, but he kept apologizing and pleading, so I decided to stay because of David's request and listen to his inaugural speech from a corner of the room. Of course, far from his wife's reach. During his speech, David confessed how hard it was growing up under a previous president who valued educational backgrounds highly. Meeting me changed his outlook, he said. He declared that now as president, the company would value hard work over just educational backgrounds or family lineage.
Despite the hardships, I am who I am today because of my best friend, Kenneth Carter. He is my best friend and a commendable person who started his own business.
I was introduced as a friend who didn't let my tough upbringing defeat me and had made something respectable of myself. It was unexpected, and I felt both embarrassed and pleased at the same time. I have always prided myself on my efforts. I started and succeeded in my own business. But I must not forget that it was with the help of others. Using the network I had gained, I not only invested in David's initiatives, but also gathered other company owners to sponsor his efforts.
I intend to have Kenneth as a partner in our future community contribution projects.
I was also surprised by David's announcement. Being recognized as a partner was truly an honor. After the speech, David brought Mary over to me again.
Kenneth.
Hey, David, that was an excellent speech.
Thanks. Anyway.
He then looked sternly at Mary next to him.
Mary, those words in my speech represent my beliefs. So, apologize to Kenneth for looking down on him because of his educational background.
What? No, that's.
David urged his wife to apologize to me.
Mary, please apologize.
David repeated, and Mary, looking annoyed, glanced between David and me.
What? I haven't said anything wrong. Your friend is just a rare exception. I absolutely refuse to apologize.
Mary awkwardly maintained that she was right and refused to apologize. David sighed heavily at her stubbornness.
All right. Mary wants to see my company fail, it seems. If our views are this different, let's end it.
What? What do you mean?
It's simple. The current company and its projects are viable thanks to Kenneth's investment. If you can't understand that, then we should get a divorce.
David stated clearly that he was proposing a divorce to Mary.
What? Wait, how did it come to this?
It's because you refuse to acknowledge your wrongs.
But that doesn't mean.
Mary started to panic, but David suggested they discuss it through lawyers. Then, signaling to me, he and I left the venue together. A few days after David's inauguration party as CEO, he told me he had divorced Mary. Really, you did it seriously?
Yay, it's true. Well, it was a marriage our parents arranged anyway. If you ask if we were close, not really, and I'm not bothered by it.
Oh, I see. Mary had been arrogant towards the company's employees too, believing her position as the future president's wife entitled her to such behavior. David had warned her about this attitude multiple times. Seeing how relieved David was now, I realized he had never been serious about Mary. Moreover, following the divorce, he also canceled contracts with Mary's parents' company. David's parents were quite angry about his unilateral actions, but after he explained that Mary's parents' company was underperforming, they seemed to calm down, albeit still displeased. Later, when their business significantly declined, they finally stopped complaining, David reported with a laugh. It might be more accurate to say they couldn't complain anymore.
Now I can finally run the company the way I want.
David, you've really worked hard.
And a lot of that is thanks to you, Kenneth.
Really?
Yes. Growing up with you, I've always been inspired to give my all.
David, thank you.
That's my line.
David, I was really moved by your inauguration speech. So, let's keep working well together as business partners.
Of course. We've come this far thanks to your investment.
David and I shook hands, vowing to continue our efforts as business partners. Just as I was helped by friends and those around me despite my challenging upbringing and limited education, I'm determined to protect the future for the next generation of children.